Hello, Coach. Before we jump into today's episode, I've got something that you guys do not want to miss out on. It's called Underdog Hoops University. Is It is now offering a 14-day free trial. That's 2 weeks full of things that you can explore, an entire coaching platform, playbooks, video breakdowns, practice planning, tools, and everything you need to grow your program and sharpen your edge as a coach. If you're serious about coaching and developing athletes, culture, and winning the right way, this is where you need to start. Alright, now let's get into today's episode and unpack the real coaching insights, practice tips, and everything you've come to expect from Underdog Hoops. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Underdog Hoops, presented by great coaches in our basketball community. From the Underdog Hoops studio in Rancho Cucamonga, California, here is your host, Sam Farrar.
All right, so next one's going to be kind of player development questions. So what skills do you emphasize in player development at different levels?
So, I can start with the youth development. And this is the first year I really coached youth, like I said, my daughter's team. And it was the first and second graders. And a lot of those kids either played for 1 year or they haven't touched the basketball at all. And you get a good sense of how some of these younger coaches, and, hey, they're out there volunteering, and that's great. I'm just different where I come from a high school background. Coaching older kids, so I'm going to be more structured. I kind of have my philosophy, so I can't look at it as a babysitting service. Or, there was a lot of coaches that I saw just kind of, let's do layup lines. We're going to play 3-on-3 or whatever before we get into the little games between the two teams. And I'm over here doing stations and whatnot. And for me, the biggest thing, the number one thing that I want these kids to learn at a young age is ball handling. You need to learn how to dribble the ball before anything else. And then for me, just because my background was shooting, I got them early on. We're going to start working drills because they're pushing the ball up and everything. And we're going to start working on follow throughs, guide hands at an early age. As the year went on, you started to see some of the kids, not all of them. My daughter was definitely not one of them, but which kind of broke my heart a little bit. We had a handful of kids that they started using the follow through and the guide hand and whatnot, and you started seeing the confidence. Oh my God, I'm at least, if anything, the ball's bouncing off the rim a little easier, or I am making my shots, or I'm getting closer to making it. You started seeing that confidence level. So for me, it was most definitely ball handling, and then shooting. We worked on a lot of defense, and there was a lot of coaches that we had that they wanted their kids to run zone, and I am incredibly against letting these kids run zone defense because I want them to understand man concepts first, of just stay in front of the person that has the ball. And if they don't, here's how you deny. Or if, at worst, just stay in front of the person and just try to see where the ball is and where you're person. And we had a lot of those. The defensive part really clicked for all the kids of, okay, it was do this and do this. And they got it. And whereas zone for kids, it's one, you can teach the kid to be lazy and rely on somebody else. One, obviously, right? That's why I love zone when I played. And two, it can be tough to understand where you need to go. So for me, it's just teaching the basics, but ball handling to me has to be far and away the number one skill you have to teach these kids, because it's just so important. I didn't have that skill. I was not a good ball handler, and it affected my time. I could shoot, but if I couldn't handle the ball, it was a lot of running around for me trying to get open.
Yeah. So I am with you on the ball handling because I think that that's the most important thing. So what I do with my kids is, and what I've been doing for the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's been, is one of the coaches that I work for came out of the AAU kind of thing, but with his son, and he played at Marshall and did all these things as a practice player and stuff. So he he was kind of my early mentor
Sure.
in trying to figure out that stuff. But he really emphasized like, hey, these guys need to learn how to handle the ball, but they also need to do two ball dribbling stuff. They can't, because when they are focusing on both hands at the same time, they're going to be even better when it's just one ball and they have to control it with one ball. So I make them do pounding, and then I make them go full court, and then they're going to skip on the way back.
Yep.
And then I do alternating. So they just got to alternate them, and then we do like V dribbles and stuff like that. So at the beginning of the year, they suck at it.
Oh, of course.
At the end of the year, I'm like, okay, you see why I did that?
Yep.
They're like,
Exactly.
yep.
Oh, they see the difference. I mean, what I'm a big fan of in high school that we were doing, because our kids were not the first year we were there. We had no ball handlers. Our best ball handler would have been one of the probably top 7 on a regular on a good team, right? But she had to have the ball in her hand all the time. One of my favorite drills was, and she always wanted to go right. She never wanted to use her left. So we put a cone in her right hand and said, every time you touch that, you try to shift over to that right hand, you're going to be doing an up down with the ball, and you're only going to be dribbling the left hand anyway. So you're just going to hurt yourself. And she ended up getting better at it, and we ended up then putting someone on her, defender, and pushing her shoulders, giving her resistance, teaching how to drive low. We did this with all the kids, but we saw a big difference between when they started to where they were now, especially 3 years later. Those kids, they learned how to actually dribble. And we started doing the 2-ball stuff. And they're going behind their back, no problem, without looking. We had the goggles too early on. We used to use the goggles, blinders. And to me, they're a great tool to start with. But for me too, it can force the habit of just, well, I'm just going to look down even further.
Yeah. Well, I try to do that in the summer and like progression stuff.
Yep.
I have like a bunch of stuff that I use in the summer that I don't really use during the winter time. And it's like, first of all, I don't want to break it out because it's not the time.
Right.
But I think in the summertime, you're working on a lot more skill development than you are strategy.
100%.
And 100%. Yes. And I've kind of learned that this year is, hey, you'll see the progress. And I try to tell my kids it's a journey and you're going to get better over time if you listen to me.
Yep.
Now, if you don't listen to me, you're going to end up on the bench and you're going to cry about it later.
Yeah. I mean,
your parents. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The way I look at it, and I've told the kids this before, is listen, the game, the season, in season, when it comes to skill level and all that, don't get mad when you turn the ball over because you dribbled off your foot. Don't get mad because someone was able to swipe the ball from you or you made a poor pass because you were looking down. The season is the test. But if you want to pass the test, you got to study in the off season. And that's doing those individual drills. That's doing the work, getting out there on your own when no one's telling you to, because you want to go past that test. I said, so don't get mad if you didn't do the work in the summer and you just showed up at tryouts and said, all right, here we go. And the last time you touched the ball was the last game of the season last year, or you played a little summer league once a week. You really haven't improved. If anything, you're just trying to get back to where you were. So don't get mad when you turn the ball over. Don't get mad that you dribble off your foot, because what did you do not to do that during the off season?
Exactly.
That kind of resonated a little bit the next year, and we had a lot of kids starting to go do a lot of work, or they were going to some local, skill development groups and things like that.
That's good. Okay, so strategy, game adjustments. What is your preferred offensive system and why?
It's evolving. So for me, it's been flex for a long, long time. Just run a basic flex, and I think part of that is because of the skill level of the players that we had at the time, where, again, we tried to run read and react at first. Our varsity coach wanted to run read and react, and I like it, but you have to have skill really to run that.
Yep.
And we weren't scoring, and we just decided we need to have an offense that is just go here, you You do this, you go here, then go here. Eventually, you run it enough times, you're going to lose somebody, you're going to get open. And so it was flex for a long time. It's starting to evolve, and it evolved this past season for me, where I wanted to start running out of the horn set. And you can still, and I know horns, everyone's starting to run out of horns and things like that. But for me, there's so many more variables that you can run. And like I said, I like chaos. And to me, out of a horn set, you can run a lot of chaos because you can run a ton of misdirection. And I like running a lot of decoys. And so for me, I'm exploring, we had a couple sets that were out of the horns, but I'm starting now to I have a little video log here that I'm trying to find, like, you know what, I'm starting to name call these. I want to start running this next year. I want to start running this. This is what we're going to run. And, we'll have our typical, maybe we'll run flex out of horns just to, if I don't call anything or we just start a game, hey, let's just get into it, run the offense. Let's see what they do first. And then now we're going to throw a bunch of different things at them. I don't like doing the same thing twice. But in horns, you can do how many sets on it. It's really, you can do as many as you want. Whereas with the flex, you're kind of limited. But so like I said, yeah, right now I'm starting to evolve into the horn set, and because I just see how many possibilities there are. And I can also see myself overwhelming myself and all the kids saying, oh, listen, now we got 58 plays. Which one do you want to run? So
yeah, I worked with a coach that really, he had 67 plays, 3 presses, 3 press breaks, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, I was young, so I didn't really understand.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, these kids have a hard time remembering one play.
Exactly. And so for me, yeah, so what I think too, when you're building a program, you throw a couple in there, and those are the sets you're running. And then as the seasons go on and the kids start to get to know you, you can throw a couple more in there, because now you scratched a couple out because those aren't going to work, or you just don't have the players for those. So you can always kind of evolve it. What we're trying to do in my town here that I live, we're a regional school. We have a tri-town that the varsity coach and I started talking about. And this is one of the things, is getting these kids at a young age, starting to develop almost like a farm system where you got your varsity team, you got your JV team, then you got your 8th, 7th, 6th graders. Well, I think it should start all the way down to where I'm coaching, 1st, 2nd grade. What do you want these kids to start learning? Not that these kids 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders running horns, but
Yeah.
what do you want them? What do you think is the most important for them to learn right now, so we can teach these kids as they come up? There's expectations, and there's almost a cadence of they know where they need to be. And I base it off of my daughter as well. She's a really good gymnast, and they have different levels, and there's different years they're going to learn new things. I see a lot of basketball programs in towns that don't do that. It's completely different philosophies every year. And then you put them in the high school, and what I learned for the last 3 years, because so-and-so was my coach. Well, now I've never even seen any of this. So to me, I look at it, like I said, like my daughter does gymnastics, and they have it every year. It's you need to get to this level. And I'm trying to build a program here now at Masco to start doing that. So when these kids, hopefully me one day, if I become the varsity coach up here, that I know what these kids can do. They know exactly what I'm going to do. They can read my mind. And I think that's super important. But, defensively, like I said, I like chaos. In high school, I am a big fan of a 2-3 zone, just because, especially I look at it as in the league we're in Amesbury right now. We're in the Cape Ann League. It's a small league. You're not going to get a lot of great shooters. So you can run zone. But I'm a big fan, too, of pressing when you need to, not pressing the whole game. I don't like that. I don't like coaches to just come out and say, I'm going to press you the whole game, and I'm just going to just keep kicking you to death until you fall down. Let's play a game. No, like we did. So one of the years we did really bad. It was the year after they won the championship. We come on board. I'm looking at the huddle stats, we're looking, we're turning the ball over 28, 29 times a game in the pressing, when we're getting pressed and this and that. But then I looked at the stats, I went deeper. I said, well, let's look at when they don't press us. And we're just looking in the half court sets. We're winning by 7 every game. We're winning by 7. It's the presses in the second chance points that are killing us off turnovers. And so for me, I don't like teams that press all the time. Now, I'm cool with you come out and press, to start the game for a minute or two, just to set the tone, and then you set back and, let's have a little bit of a war in the half court. But when we have to press, and I do it in spots, I'm a big fan of the 1-2-1-1. It seemed to work for us a lot, and it creates a ton of chaos the way we run it. And defensively, like I said, I love chaos, and the way we're trying to run defense lately at the end of the season, and it's hard, but we try to take little bits and pieces of it, is how Kelvin Sampson at Houston does it. He's literally blitzing players up at half court and then having people rotate. Now you got to be long, you got to be fast, but if we could start teaching those concepts of just how much pressure we're going to put on a ball handler, that sets the tone too. And I love doing that. So I like being up against, even in the zone, I like, ball handlers got the ball, you're on their hip until they until they get off. I don't want any of this giving them space. Be on their hip. That's how I want to play defense. And the kids are responding to it. It's tiring, but they're responding to it.
All right. So coaching challenges. What is one of the biggest challenges as a coach that you've kind of overcome?
Probably my emotions. Like I said earlier, there was a game where I was tracking on. I was just yelling. The kids are walking back. I remember the kids are walking back after I called a timeout. And I was always, as a kid, told, jog to the bench. They're walking, and I said, sit down. And to me, I said, what did I just do? Everyone heard it. So that was kind of, had to have a come to Jesus moment with myself and say, all right, we're going to have to talk to the team tomorrow. So I'm going to have to say, hey, I'm sorry, I have to back off a little bit. And my emotions get me because I'm so passionate about the game. Not so much that I want to win. Of course I want to win, but I want to see them win. I want to see them happy, especially when you're on a 3, 4, 5 game skid and you see the morale start going down. And now I feel like, what can I do to turn this around? And I put a lot of it on me. So I think a lot of it is, sometimes I think I just need to back off a little bit. I think that's my biggest challenge. And how am I going about that? It's just kind of self-reflection after every game. And huddle's not just great for players. Huddle's great for coaches. You get to see yourself on the sideline.
Yeah.
And I've seen myself at the time where I'm going, ooh, I didn't like that. I did that. I didn't like that. So you start seeing yourself and you say, well, I start to see how did kids react to what my message was at that moment too, because I know what I said at those times. I remember all the timeouts I called, after I watch a game, and I say I remember what the adjustment was, or I remember, hey, I didn't like what I was seeing, and I'm telling them why. Obviously, what I said didn't resonate, or what I said really kind of maybe demotivated them because now they're thinking I can't do it. So, I think it's a lot of self-reflection, and just understanding, what, this didn't work. I didn't get a response. Let me try something new, completely different, that I can get a positive response out of them. But for me, I think it's my passion. I invest so much time in them, and they're investing so much time in the game and for the team. I don't want to me, it's a problem if I care more than you care.
Exactly.
So
yeah. I kind of in the same boat. Emotions. My kids, I think a year ago, they got to see the worst that I was like that season, and it was kind of like, hey, halftime, no locker room, and I kind of just screamed out a few things, and after the fact, one of the older coaches on our staff was like, hey, it probably wasn't smart.
yeah.
And he's
Yep.
much older and much wiser than I am.
Yep.
And he's like, I would apologize to your team tomorrow.
Yeah.
And kind of reflect on it and And I did, and it was like, okay, that kind of also helped them, like, hey, coach can make mistakes too.
Exactly.
So I think that really helped for them to see that.
I think that's
Um,
super. I hate it's. I don't know how to put it in words, but like I said, and I'm sure at that point you got a positive reaction out of the team, and I did too. When I did that, I actually got a couple emails from parents because the kids went back to their parents and said, "Yeah, actually, coach apologized and said, hey, he was wrong in doing that. He shouldn't have done that." Coaches, the parents were happy, like, "Hey, thanks for doing that." Like, they were actually upset after the game, but because you did that, they understood, like, yeah, I'm human too. And I look back on it and we ended up going on a winning streak. Am I happy I did it? I mean, looking back on it, yeah, but at the same time, it was a learning experience for me. It was probably a good
yeah.
thing that I did it at that time and realized, ooh, that looked ugly or that sounded ugly or what have you.
So the varsity coach that I worked for, um he was the JV coach before he kind of took over.
Mhm.
But he's kind of he's done varsity for a long time, and he kind of just did it to get his son through high school. And then he's kind of hanging on because people are like, "Oh, we want you here." But what he kind of told me one time is, like, he had a story where his dad, like, he kind of did the same thing, yelled at his team, and then his dad pulled him aside and said, "Watch you guys lose," because he was just like, your emotions will get the best of you, and that'll get the best of your team. And he kind of relayed that to me and was like, I can kind of see that sometimes in you, um, where I was in my coaching. And he's like, I just don't want you to have to go through that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that really helped me stop and just say, hey, that's just teach them.
Yeah. Got to check yourself or just kind of, you know what, throw that one under the rug. We'll talk about that one tomorrow when everything's
Yeah.
cool and calm. But I think every single coach goes through that, no matter what.
Yeah.
There's always a moment where you're going to lose your mind, and then you just gotta kind of come back to earth and go, whoa, that was that shouldn't have happened.
So what is some advice that you would give to an aspiring coach?
Some advice that I would give to an aspiring coach. I still feel like I'm collecting the advice right now. Uh, I'm taking as much advice as I can get. Enjoy the process. Don't get as emotional, like we just talked about, as we do, because it is a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. You're looking for incremental changes, not it's not going to happen immediately. And you want these kids to end up looking up to you and looking at you as
Yep.
a positive role model instead of, oh yeah, this guy was my coach. He was nuts. And I've had those coaches. I've had those coaches like, this guy was nuts. And then I've had coaches like Coach Canty, Coach Ford, where, hey, I want to sit down with them all day and just pick their brain because
Yeah.
there were times, they lost their mind. I mean, even Coach Ford. I mean, this is a guy who played for the Celtics, played for the Pistons, coached the Celtics, won championships with Larry Bird, and he's given it to me. And he's given me, the business. And at the same time, you're looking at it going, but the way he did it, I'm going to remember the words, not the emotions. That's one of the other things. I think that would be my biggest. I have said this before. Listen to my words. Don't listen to my tone. Because sometimes my tone, you might think I'm angry, but sometimes my anger and my passion sound the same. But my words are going to what you need to listen to, because that's going to tell you what you need to do. So that would be probably at my young age of, still kind of figuring out coaching myself, which we're always going to figure out until the day we retire.
Yeah.
I think right now would be, for a player, listen to my words, not my tone, and then just try to keep your emotions a little bit in check and make sure, it's not about you, it's about the players, it's about their development and that they have a positive experience. You want your kids
Exactly.
to come back.
Yep. All right. Rapid fire questions here.
Go.
What's your favorite memory or moment as a coach?
Favorite memory as a moment or a coach. We had it happened not this past season, the season before. We had a kid who she was just a nervous wreck, just a big ball of anxiety. And she was one of the kids that I could yell at, but secretly she wouldn't tell me that, like, listen, coach, I just don't like being yelled at. But there was a moment where we were playing a game and we were down 10 with probably 4 minutes left, and we were up probably 12 half the game, and then we blew it. A couple minutes left, 2, 3, 4 minutes left in the game. We're down 10, and we ended up getting the game into overtime, and it came down to, I think there was 2 seconds left, 1.7, something like that, and she has 2 free throws. And I just saw it in her where I just had to call timeout, and I said, this kid's a mess. She's going to lose it. Like, she can't handle this. And for whatever reason, I don't know what, it's just a funny memory I have where I just pulled her aside, the timeout, assistant coaches are talking to the team. I said, there's nothing to talk to the team about. There's nothing they can do now. It's on her. And I just looked at her, and she's just looking at me, shaking, and I just said, what are you having for dinner tonight? Like, what are you talking about? So I think I want to have chicken pot pie tonight. And she's just like, this makes no sense. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I don't know. I was like, all right, go out there. Just relax. Let's go out there, shoot it. I don't care if you make it. I was like, who cares? She goes, this is a good position to be in. Just shoot it. You make it, you make it. Great. If you miss it, who cares? She nailed both of them. We won the game. And she came back to me the next day, and she was just like, I'm so happy you just had that stupid conversation with me. And so that was kind of my funny memory, because it just came out of nowhere where I was like, this kid's a ball of anxiety. What do I do? And instead of, hey, you can do this, the pep talk, whatever, it's just, I'm going to change the subject, make you think. Like, what are you doing? Get this off
You're
your
like
mind for a
just
second.
tricking them.
That's it. That's it. So that's probably my favorite. But it was the game that, we were down, we were up, we were down, and they surprised me. I didn't know they had it in them to come back like that. And it was one of those games where, you kind of, it's as a player, when you're in the zone, you're hitting your shots, you're seeing the floor, who's going to be open before they're even open. You have those moments when you're on the sideline coaching too, where you just kind of like, I'm in a zone, and it just seems like every decision I'm making is the right decision at that right time. And I felt like I was in a good flow, and then that just happened, and it was like, you know what? We're having a great day. We're having fun. It's engaging. We're not getting blown out. And we ended up ripping off a 4-game winning streak after that. It was awesome. So, that game and that moment was probably my favorite.
Okay.
I know, rapid fire.
No, you're good. If you could have dinner with one basketball coach from the past or present, who would it be and why?
Red Auerbach, no question. It would be Red Auerbach, not just because of my fandom for the Celtics, but that was someone who I think he revolutionized the game. He changed the game, and just the stories that he could tell that could still relate to today. But I would love to talk to Red Auerbach and just pick his brain about basketball. And I love the history of the game. But it would definitely be Red Auerbach. And then probably second, he's no longer with us, is Coach Ford.
Very good. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received as a coach?
Just have fun. Have fun. It's about the kids. And at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Very nice. What is one thing that most people don't know about you? So maybe like your players don't know about you.
One thing that my players don't know about me, geez. I am possibly, we're still looking into it, but we believe from genealogy history that I am a direct descendant of Abraham Lincoln's wife.
Okay.
So that's one of those like fun fact things.
Yeah.
Another one would be probably at my strongest when I was a personal trainer back in a former life when I was younger and a lot more fit. I was squatting 515 pounds. Not even close today.
Yeah, my kids are like, whenever I get in the weight room with them, they're like, they're probably like, you can't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
But then I'm kind of like, put 600 pounds on the leg press. Let me do that real quick. And then it gets them all like, what the heck?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've gained some weight over the years, and the kids will look at me and be like, like, hey, listen, we're gonna do up downs, and I'm running them with you. Don't let me win. And I was like, look at me and then look at you guys. You guys been doing this all season. I can't remember the last time I did an up down. Don't let me beat you. And then I come out of the blocks. Now, granted, it's not a good car ride home. I'm huffing and puffing,
Oh yeah.
but and I'm hurting. I'm actually kind of concerned. But no, it's always fun to kind of surprise them like that.
Awesome. That's pretty much it for me.
Sweet.
I'll end it. Hold on. I'll end the recording.
Hello, Coach. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Underdog Hoops podcast. If you found this information valuable, the conversation, and I know you did, make sure to check out Underdog Hoops University. You can start a 14-day free trial and get access to everything from detailed playbooks to video breakdowns to practice planning tools, whether you're coaching youth, high school, or any other coaching, AAU, whatever. This platform is built for you to grow. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this episode with another coach who's on the grind just like you are. Until next time, we hope that you keep growing and keep leading the underdog way.